welcome to the Woolwinder podcast. My name is Frances and this is my place where I like to share with you all about my knitting, a little bit about Hugo too, and other things in my life that make me smile. It's been a while since I've done a podcast, quite a long time, and last time I was just about to go off to Ireland, so yeah, it's been a while. I've got 4 finished projects and lots of other bits and pieces to tell you about. So this is my first finished project, and this is my Nola cardigan. I think I was finishing a sleeve the last time when I talked to you about it. I've knitted the 3rd size starting on the top, so you start top down and then went up to the 4th size when I split for the sleeves. The sleeves are knitted flat in intarsia, and then you seam them afterwards. So that's something that I've done, and then I went on and did the body, and it's a cropped body. It's got a really nice deep rib, and I might pop it off in a minute actually and show it to you. It's quite hot today. It's not really the right day to be wearing this. It's knitted in Rowan Island Blend and Kid Silk Haze, so it is quite warm, but it's going to be a smashing thing. In fact, I've already worn it out a couple of times. It's a great thing to take in an evening when you're going out to be wearing, especially like when you're leaving, coming out of a restaurant or a pub or something afterwards. It's really nice to be able to throw on. I found some fabulous buttons for it, so let me pop it off, and you're going to stay here. I've got a super slippy dress on today, haven't I? I know. And so you may slide off as soon as I take my hands off you. The lovely intarsia sleeves and the buttons. Now there are 2 on there at the moment. And I'm going to add another. I've got 2 more, so I think probably I'm going to add 2 more in between to go in there. And you can see the deep rib on that, and the increases that you've made as you've come from the top down. Are you all right? Yes. So I am really pleased with this. I really like the pattern. It's not the first time I've knitted it. I've also knitted a yellow one. Let me see if I can grab that for you. Here is the yellow version, which I knitted last year and I have talked to you about before. But do you know what? It never had buttons on before. And while I was on a bit of a button fest, so I get my buttons from Textile Gardens, who do lovely buttons. I get them online. And here we go. These are the buttons. And you can see, if you haven't seen it before, these are the lovely sleeves on this one. So very much a colourful cardigan as opposed to, and that one is knitted in Aran Yarn Fibre Company, and Aran Makes, I think that was knitted in. So I talked to you about my last video, I got out a number of unfinished projects from last summer, things that I'd had on the needles, and I guess I just kind of hit the end of the summer. They weren't finished, and I just decided to pop them away and get them out again when I felt inspired to knit them, because obviously as you're moving into sort of September, October time, there's no inspiration to knit something for the summer. So there were a number of patterns there that I showed you, and one of those was the Angelou, and this was the one that was most nearly finished. Who'd you see? You're watching somebody outside, are you? This is the Angelou cardigan. So this is by Martin Story. It's a Rowan pattern, and I started this, I think it was in 23. So it must have been 23 that I finished the yellow one, and then I think I started this one afterwards because I really enjoyed the pattern. So this is in Rowan Summerlight, so that's a cotton. I do find this one is heavier. I've also done full length sleeves on this, and I half wish I hadn't, I'm not sure. But anyway, it is lovely. I love the colour, and I'm sure I'll get lots of use out of it. I think I would choose next time. I think I will knit the Angelou cardigan again, but I think I'll choose a different yarn for it. As I say, it's for a double knit, so there's just such a big choice of things that you can knit it in. It's got this lovely, quite simple slip stitch pattern. It's got the set-in sleeves. which for me, for my frame, I like to have the set-in sleeves seem to work quite well. So there's a lot, and then it's got this nice sort of curving front line, and in fact the pattern it's a cropped pattern. You could obviously make it longer, but and mine is cropped. But this cardigan and the previous two that I've shown you are all designed to be worn really over dresses, which is why I tend to keep them fairly short. Otherwise, I find that a longer cardigan, you just kind of get lost in it, especially from someone like myself who's got quite a small frame. And this cardigan has also, as I said, I was on a bit of a button fest, and so this one has also got some lovely buttons. I'm going to pop this off again now. Sorry, Hugo. Hold that up so you can see the buttons. The buttons are quite subtle in comparison to perhaps the buttons that I had on the Nola cardigan, but I think they complement the cardigan really well. So that is my Angelou pattern. Are we doing all right there? Yes. I know. The thing is, you like to sit here, don't you? Watch what I'm doing and look out the window. Hey? Yes. So Hugo had a bit of a problem a couple of weeks ago and wasn't walking well, and we took him to the vets, and he had to be sedated and have a number of x-rays done on his back legs, and they're still not quite sure what the problem. They couldn't find anything serious, if you like, but they're not sure what the problem is. There's certainly a loss of muscle on his back right leg, so it's under supervision, and you're walking a little bit less than you were, wasn't it, which is probably not doing me any favours. But I think, as I say, it's quite warm at the moment, so not walking quite so far for him is probably not such a big thing. But yeah, it's a little bit of a worry when he's such a young dog. So my next finished object is the Anker Summer Tea by Petite Knit. Hugo has popped off my lap. He just kept slipping off my very slippery dress, so I've popped him down. He's going to now be, as he does, pottering around the room, seeing what he can get out up to. Although actually he may well just go off and sleep now. So yeah, here is my Anker's tea from Petite Knit. Again, it was one of my sleeping whips from last summer. I had done most of the yoke when I first showed it to you last time, and I have now finished the yoke. The body is all stocking stitch, of course, so I did that while we were in Ireland on our road trip, because there was an awful lot of driving. Actually, to be fair, even more driving than we fully appreciated. I think it's always hard to grasp how much distance there is between places, and of course you want to do as much as you possibly can, and you want to see as many places as you can. So there was a lot of driving, and my husband does the driving because he prefers to do it that way, and I'm quite happy to do that because I can knit. And so I knitted the body of this over that trip, as well as another jumper that I'll talk to you about in a little while. So it gave me plenty of knitting time, and I got this done, and I've done it. It's a shorter length. Let's see if I can stand up so you can just see it's just sitting there. And the idea is that that's going to sit on the waistband of a skirt, or of course be over a dress as it is at the moment, although I'm not sure. I don't know, they don't look too bad, these two colours, but it isn't something I'd immediately gravitate towards. So it's gonna sit on the waistband, and I think that that's going to be really, really nice, nice way to wear it. And I've looked at the two of them, put it with a skirt, and it's a lovely combination. So I'm really pleased with it, and I love this colour. I'm really pleased with this colour. I'm hoping to get the opportunity to wear this when I go to a wool show next month, but we'll need to see what the weather's like. You can never tell in the UK. It's boiling hot at the moment, and to be honest, I'm probably a little bit hot in wearing this. Won't keep it on for the whole thing. But there are, it could equally be the other way, and I need a cardigan, or a bit more. But usually when I go around doing the shows, when we're walking around the shows, you'll start off with a cardigan, and then you get too hot, So I'm hoping that this might work better, because it's always nice when you're going around the shows to be wearing something that you've knitted, because after all, that's what we all are. We're all knitters there together, and I love seeing what other people are wearing, what they've knitted, and it gives a point of conversation, whether that's talking to a stall holder or another knitter. So on to my next project. And next finished project, my last finished project actually. So that was the 4 of them, wasn't it? Yeah, the Nola, the Angelou, the Ankers. And then this is the building blocks blanket. And this has been knitted for my new grandchild that is coming in August. So here we go. So it's based on the idea of, it's building blocks, but it's based on the idea of Lego. And you've got the different shaped, I'm going to fold it in half because it's a bit easier for me to talk about it. You've got the different size blocks, that's what I'm trying to say, isn't it? You know, the 4 blocks, the 8 blocks and what have you. And each, now what did I say these were called last time? It's left me now. I'm definitely having a day where I'm not remembering things. Possibly not the best day for me to record, but anyway, there you go. You've got the different size blocks, and there was a plan on the blanket as to which is what I followed. But I did add one extra strip. I don't know which side it was running down now, but I did an extra strip of 2 blocks down one side and sort of built that in to the pattern, if you like. So this was knitted holding Mrs. Moon pudding, which is this lovely yarn, and it is 80% sustainable merino and 20% baby alpaca, and of course it's machine washable. I personally wouldn't dream of giving something to somebody with a baby that wasn't machine washable, because you know somewhere or another it's going to end up in the machine, despite the best of intentions. So it was held double for this because it was looking for a bulky yarn, so it does make quite a heavy blanket. I think it would work well in a cot or maybe on the floor as something for the baby to sit on. But it is lovely. It's beautiful colours, so I think it's lovely. I love the colours on it. I think they're colours that I don't think my son, whose baby it is, will be in the least bit bothered about what colours it is. I think he'll love the Lego, but I think he won't be in the least bit bothered about the colours. But I'm hoping my daughter-in-law will like the colours. They're sort of her kind of colours. But I must say I love the combination as well. So that is the building blocks blanket. It did block very well, by the way. I was really pleased with how it blocked. I then also found, of course, that I had lots of ends left. So it was knitted using the intarsia method. So you can see the crossing over of the yarns as you meet along here. And then, yeah, so you've got the ends. And what I found was the best thing was to sew them down between the 2 changes of colours. And then that way they weren't showing. I did actually try needle felting some of the ends to see if that helped, but I found so that's one that's needle felted, that end there, but you can see there's just a little bit still sticking out there, whereas when I sewed them in it left a little bit less of an end, so I felt that was probably the more effective way to do it. So in progress at the moment, I've got quite a number of things, and I think I've got more on my needles, more different projects on my needles than I've ever had before. But that's fine, I'm quite comfortable with that. I tend to go through stages, so one week I might be knitting maybe 2 or 3 projects like I always would have done, and then another week I'll then swap on to something else. So I might get to a certain point and then swap on to something else and pick something else up. So this next project is Pollinate by Florence Sperling, I think it is, and I think it's from last year's Rowan magazine. I hope you can't hear, I've got the window open and I live opposite a junior school, and I think they're practicing for sports day. So there's a bit of whistle blowing going on and quite a bit of cheering, and yes, that's what it's where we live. There's always that kind of thing, and then it's very quiet in the summer. Well, it would be, except that we back onto some woods and a park, so then you get the children running through there. But yeah, it's very children-friendly hood, child-friendly neighbourhood. That's the right word for what I'm trying to say. So enough of the gabbering. This is Pollinate. It's quite pulled up on my needles because you can see I've been increasing the stitches, and still on the same size needle as well, because at the moment I still feel quite comfortable doing that, but for showing you it's probably not brilliant actually. So let me hold that up nice and close, and you can see if I just shifty some bits around, you can just see how, look, going that way, you can see how it's coming out. So you're starting with the smaller motif, and then it's getting bigger, wider as you're going down. This pattern is knitted using the Estonian method of interlay knitting. I told you I wasn't having a good day for remembering things, and it's where you're actually laying the yarn across what I'm gonna actually do is put in here a photograph of this so you can see it a bit more closely, because actually it's quite hard for me to hold it up and for you to be effectively to be able to see it well. So you're laying the yarn across, and the yarn that I'm laying across in this situation is fine lace. It's Rowan fine lace, and I've got 6 strands on for each section. And you lay it across the knitting, then you bring it to the front, then you knit that couple of stitches, and then you take it back to the back. And then in between you've got lace, so you're not carrying this yarn like you might do on stranded knitting along. It's just for that section there. If you did strand it, it would end up, I think, very tight and wouldn't sit well. And indeed, even for these little sections, you've got to be quite careful. I've been trying to, just as you would do for stranded knitting, or pushing those stitches down on your right hand needle so they're stretched out, so that the strand that runs along the back, so when you come back round, because you're knitting in the round, when you come back round and you pull this back over, now there is another method that they do use on one of their videos that they suggest that you can use, but I just found it easier just to stretch the stitches out and bring it across. So it's been a really interesting technique, and I have got to the end of it. Now I have actually done, I felt when I looked at the picture that the yoke was very deep, and I'm quite a small person and but quite large busted. I didn't want an enormous looking yoke here. I wanted it to stop fairly soon. We say that way, if we hold it up, yeah, it's going to stop, you know. So that was what I wanted. So there are more of these larger ones than on the pattern than I've put in mine. So that was my personal choice. It's what I always love about knitting, is that you can adapt things to suit you and your body, and goodness knows I don't have a standard body, so it's really nice to be able to do that. And that's looking nice. And now now these sections are just down to stocking stitch, and this navy blue is Rowan's Summerlight 4-ply, and then in between I'm continuing the lace for a little bit further, and I think I'm going to do that till just before you split for the sleeves. Now the plan, if I carry it out, we'll have to see, and this is kind of what I did when we went to Ireland. I want to get this to a stage where I've split for the sleeves, and therefore when we're in Ireland and we're travelling around on the minibus, last time there was a fair bit of travelling between different places. I imagine it will probably be the same this time, and that I can knit this, and it will just be plain stocking stitch, so I don't need to look at my hands, because obviously looking down at your hands is going to, especially on a minibus, give you a possibility of travel sickness. And that's what I did. In fact, I did something slightly more complicated. I was doing a traveller cowl, and that did require a little bit more concentration, particularly when you get to the ends and you're doing the shaping and that kind of thing at the ends of the rows. But that worked fine. But this one should be even simpler, because it's just going to be straight round and round knitting. And then, you know, it's only a 4-day trip, so I'm sure that will keep me busy on that. I'll take 2 projects, I think, to Ireland. Now I've done that, and I took way more than 2 projects to Ireland. But then we were there for 9 days. Now, when I go to Scotland, well, first of all, I'm flying, so it does mean I'm a little bit more limited in what I can carry. But I think what I'll do is I will take 2 projects. I'm going to take this one, and then I'll take one that's slightly more complicated but probably smaller that I can do in my hotel room of an evening or early in the morning. That kind of thing where where I can get away with something, well, where I've got something that perhaps is a little bit more interesting than the plain old stocking stitch. So I'm very pleased with how this is coming on. I'm liking the colours. I said before, I think in my previous video, that I'm not knitting masses and masses of summer tees, if you like, because I don't find and the reason I don't think I wear them as much is I find that I'm either cool enough that I want a cardigan, or I'm so warm that I only want to wear a dress or a blouse or t-shirt or what have you. And I don't ever seem to fit quite in that bit where something like this will work. I think I quite often prefer a cardigan to cover my arms and then have the option to take the cardigan off if I get too warm, so to layer up more. Obviously, one thing that does work quite well, if you're wearing this over a dress, then it is a little bit easier to take it off as a layer. So that's a possibility, isn't it? So talking of knitting projects, if I'm not knitting many summer tees, finding things to knit in the summer that are not too woolly on your hands, and ideally not too big as well. Partly because, yes, moving about more, doing more things, out and about more, but so it's good for them to be a little to have projects that are a bit lighter. But it's also nice to have a lighter project in your hands. So one of the things I've picked back up, I bought this. I bought this last summer at the Summer Wool Festival in Bedfordshire, and this is from the Knitting Shed. And I know I didn't even get to look at the Knitting Shed stall when I was in the knitting show at the knitting show in February, because it was so busy. I just couldn't get there. It was rammed. It was in a corner and I couldn't reach it. So unfortunately I didn't get to look at it. So hopefully I'll get a chance to look again this year when I go to the Summer Wool Festival next month. So this pattern I got is called Monet Minis Water-Lily Mittens, and it is just such a fabulous little pattern. Excuse the rustling. So that's what it looks like. If I can find a better picture, I will, because I'm not sure it's on Ravelry, but if I can find a better picture to put up there, I will. But you can see that it's you're doing a fade with the different colours, and then afterwards you're adding on, and it's some kind of embroidery. You're adding on some extra details on the mittens, and I just love the colours. I thought it was a lot of fun. So I haven't done masses on it, but let me show you. I'll show you the yarns that she gave you first of all to knit it with. So you've got the 4 colours for the fade, that's those there, and then you've got the pinky one, which is for the water lilies. So all I've knitted so far, as I say, I haven't knitted an awful lot, and that's what I've knitted. It's got a twisted rib. Okay, let me stand up. But you can already see, so I'm introducing, am I on the 2 no, that's just from the, no it's not, I have got 2 colours going on there. I've got the lighter green and the darker green. It's the darker green, lighter green there. So that's these 2 here that I'm on at the moment, and then I'm going to introduce the blue, which has got bits of green in it as well, and then you come over to this one at the top, the blue with bits of pink and yellow in it, and then as I say you've got the pink at the end for doing the leaves. Of course that's probably going to leave me a bit of leftover yarn, but that's okay. I like to have the mixture of bits and pieces that we can use for different things. So that's one of my summer projects that I'm doing at the moment, and that may well be the other project that I take up to Scotland, because it's nice and small. I could be knitting it on the aeroplane. I'm thinking I need to change off the metal needles, go on to wooden needles. I've actually been using some, I think called charcoal lace swivel, so that the cord doesn't have any kink in it. I use wooden ones. I know they do metal ones, and I know a lot of people get on really well with those, but I find because I suffer from inflammatory arthritis, and that can affect my hands, so I tend to find the wooden ones more comfortable, even though I probably would knit faster if I was on the metal ones. Those are a metal because they're on quite a small needle, and I think at the time that was all I could lay my hands on. You tend to have less small needles on wooden ones because they break, don't they? But these Chalgu, they're just little almost tips, if you like, I've got some that I think might fit on that one, so I might change them over to those. So what is next? Conspiracy of Ravens, I think we shall look at next. I love this project. I love how it feels to knit. It's just, here we go, we've got the yarn. So it is knitted with, this one's from Yarn Tings. I'm going to do a little bit of standing up again and show you. I'm actually coming towards the end of these ones. So the floof is from Loom, and this is from Yarn Tings, and it was on Yarn Tings stall at the show, Unravel show in February, that she had knitted Conspiracy of Ravens, and that inspired me to do that, and she helped me find this green and the yellow, so they're both from Yarn Tings. So let me hold up and show you. Get it around the right way. There we go. It's looking beautiful. You can see the different colours in the yellow as well. It's not a perfect yellow. It's got some sort of orangey tinges to it, which makes it really interesting. It did seem to take a long time to do the yoke, but it was lovely. It was interesting, required concentration, of course, but yeah, I'm really pleased with it. But I am finding these yarns really lovely. The combination really beautiful to knit with. It's just so nice and relaxing on the hands. I'm using my Leica needles. You may remember I said I got a set for Christmas, and I wasn't sure how I was going to get on with them, so they're interchangeables, and I'm finding those really nice. So I don't want a wooden one where the yarn sticks to slow me down. I can knit, and I want to knit quite quickly. I mean, it's not all about the speed, but I don't want things to take forever. There's definitely a certain impatience there, on my behalf to get on and do things. So these are really lovely. I'm really enjoying these needles. They're quite polished, so they're nice. And as I say, because they're interchangeable, you've got different lengths of cord. So that's really nicely. So this has got to a stage where I'm almost about to start the rib, and the rib was a twisted rib on the top, on the neck, so I'm going to assume it's the same, and I think that was in the pattern. I think that wasn't just me, though I'm definitely having a sort of loving of twisted rib at the moment and throwing it in places where it isn't, but I think on this one it was actually in the pattern, so I'm really enjoying this. Going to go down a do rib, and this is going to be a shorter jumper again, a bit like the Anker's one. I'm going to be wanting to wear this with either wide leg trousers or a skirt. I've got lots of jumpers that are a little bit longer that I wear with jeans, but this is a bit more of a special jumper, and so I thought, or of course wear it over a dress as well. So I want something that's a little bit shorter to wear that kind of thing. So I feel it's also good to have a variety of different. I've got lots of hand knits, so it's good to have different jumpers that work with different kinds of outfits. And not just maybe always wear a cardigan. It's nice to have a jumper that I can wear. It's quite thick, and I was doing a little bit of knitting on this last week when we were maybe only in the early 20s here, but now it's ramped up to the top 20s. And I know that sort of temperature is nothing compared for some that some of you have, but yeah, this is definitely not being knitted right at this moment, but that's fine. I knew, because I didn't start this till probably March, I knew it would probably happen that I would get to a point where it didn't get knitted as much. But it, you know, we're nearly at a point that we're doing the rib, then we do the sleeves, and yeah, and then it will be off. So I think it will be ready, you know, for the autumn, if not earlier. So because I guess it's really, I've got caught up on my anchors. See, I guess it's really a question of the fact that I keep picking it up because I'm really enjoying it, you know. So right, so that's that one. That is my Conspiracy of Ravens jumper. Right, I've shut my window because we're just getting to a point, 5 minutes time, where the children will be coming out from school, and we've already got parents sitting there with their engines running, because as I say, it's warm today, so they've got the air conditioning running in their cars. So I'm hoping that's not going to get picked up on there. So I've decided to close the window, because in a minute, all those little people, or as my cousin who's a teacher said to me yesterday, little sweaty people, will all be coming running out and making lots of noise, be relieved to be outside in that warm weather. So now we are on to, I think that's right, hang on, I'm having a little tot here. Yes, I've talked to you about, no, hang on. There is still one works in progress before I start talking to you about my new cast-ons. Getting a bit carried away here. So, last one is my little squares blanket, and I've done 2 more lines. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. Here we go. This is it. I'm really pleased with this. It is knitted with my advent calendar from last year, Camel Yarns. It was knitted with the Camel Yarns advent calendar. And actually, I'll talk to you a bit about advent calendar again in a minute, because that's something I've not updated you about. So the Camel Yarn. So it's beautiful. It was based on the seaside, but it was more about rock pools and seaweed and that kind of thing, if you get what I mean. Then and she's down, she was down on the North Cornwall coast, actually, I believe. Is it Sophie? Anyway, the dyer has moved now, but she's from Cornwall, so the colours were based on those colours that she was thinking of there, and you can see they're really beautiful. I've got 27 colours in here, and basically I follow the order that they came in the advent, plus of course a couple extra that I added in. I think I wanted a few more greens, and so I added a few extra in, and it's really lovely. I love the colours, but what I did know was I'm not a brown person. I don't wear brown colours. Don't think it goes well with my skin colouring and my hair colouring, so I don't tend to wear brown. So when I saw what was in here, I decided that I'd make it into a blanket rather than a garment that I'd worn, because one that I made before, I did make it into a cardigan, but that was all sort of blues mostly and things like that, which worked well for a cardigan. It's feeling really nice. I think it's going to be a lovely blanket. It's just going to be a bit of a blanket to be in our house, but I think it's going to be a lovely one to be able to put over your lap in the evening, or when you're a bit chilly. I'm going to be sad when it's finished, actually. So my balls are getting smaller and smaller, the Mini-Skeins that do each of the squares, and they're getting smaller and smaller. I'm not sure how many more lines. I think I've probably got enough for 2 to 3 more squares from each one, but of course I've got 27 of them, and each of these lines is 12. So it's going to get quite a bit bigger than it is at the moment, but I'll be sad when it's finished. I really enjoy knitting this. I quite often knit it when I'm reading, and we were away for a weekend in Suffolk a couple of weeks back, and we were doing a lot of walking, but not as much as we wanted to, because poor Hugo's leg wasn't right. But when we sit down, I like to get out my knitting, have my Kindle and the other members of the family quite enjoy their Kindles as well, and we just spend a slightly more prolonged time sitting in a corner of a pub or whatever, with an extra half an hour reading or what have you. So it was really nice having, and because that's a small project, it's been great for being able to take it in places. So I'm going to miss it when I haven't got it. It's just nice, relaxing reading, nice, relaxing knitting, as I say, that I can do when I'm reading, and it's very portable. So let's pop that up there with my baby blanket. It has been a while since I last spoke to you. It's about 6 weeks, and that's really just because, yeah, there's been lots going on in life, you know, just busy times, times when you're stretched a number of different ways, as you often are, whether it's as a mother, as a daughter, as you know. But I have been knitting a lot, and I'm showing that to you now, but there are some bits that I'm not going to show to you because I have been knitting a number of baby projects, and I'm going to be showing those to you once the baby's been born. And what I'll probably do is do a little section where I talk about what I've knitted for there. So yeah, the only thing that I've got out to show you is the baby blanket, the building blocks blanket. So now we will get looking at my new cast-ons. So 4 finished projects. So always in my head that means I deserve to cast on lots more. So I have decided to knit the Pressed Flowers Cardigan by Amy, is it Amy Christopherson's Savoury Knitting? I'll put it up there because actually I can't see it when I look at it quickly. So this is a lovely pattern. I'm sure many of you have knitted it, and so you'll understand what I mean, but it's so clever. So I've started off with my test swatch, so let me bring that up to show you here. And it's all slip stitches. So although you've got those 2 colours, you're never knitting more than 1 colour in a row, but you're slipping stitches. Now obviously it does mean it grows slightly less because there's a number of stitches you're not knitting, if you see what I mean. So obviously your rows aren't growing as fast as they would. It means you get more rows in your test swatch, if you like, you know, in your 10 centimetres. But it's so clever. So I am knitting it. I have got the green is from John Arbon, and it's knitting by numbers, and the ball bands of both of these have fallen out, so I'm just relying on my memory. And this lovely one is bring it up to you. See, this is from Blue Fern Yarns, and it was a hand-dyed one, and I got 2 skeins of it, actually from Stitches and Cream, who sell Blue Fern Yarns. And in fact, I think that may be where I very first came across Blue Fern Yarns, was actually, yes, it would have been at Stitches and Cream before I started seeing them at some of the trade shows as well. At some of the trade shows, sorry, we were talking about trade shows earlier, at some of the yarn shows. So yeah, this is a really beautiful, and I have cast on, so I'm going to do quite a deep rib for this. So this is what I've cast on. Let's try to stop that falling off my lap. So yeah, and then I'm knitting quite a deep rib, and then I will go into the pattern, the Pressed Flower Cardigan pattern. So obviously it's bottom up, but you're knitting it in one piece up to the arms, and then you're going to split and do the back and the 2 fronts as separate pieces, and then join them up at the shoulders, and I'm pretty sure you're picking up the stitches and then going down on the sleeves. That would be the way you would normally do that, although some of their own patterns do it the other way, where you knit the sleeve from the bottom up and then join them up together and do it that way. And I'll be honest with you, I can't remember which way around that pattern goes, and that is the problem when you've got too many patterns with lots of patterns on the go at the same time. So moving on, I just, to exasperate to this, I bought some yarn when I was in Ireland. Of course I did. And I'm just going to reach round for it. Here we go. So this is actually just a little bit of it. There was quite a lot. We went over to Ireland by ferry from Liverpool to Belfast, which was an experience because I've never been to Liverpool before. Not quite sure why, but I guess it's on the other side of the UK, the other side of England, if you like. Been to Wales many, many times. My mum grew up in Wales, went to school in Wales. My grandmother lived there. And in fact, my uncle, my mum's youngest brother, was born in Liverpool because that's where there was a special unit to help my grandmother because she was having problems in the pregnancy. But I've never been to Liverpool, so it was lovely to be there. And where we were at the ferry, you could see over and you could see the Liver building and that kind of thing. So that was a real thrill to be able to see that. But we went on the overnight ferry. And that was great fun. We enjoyed that. Slept surprisingly well, actually. Arrived in Belfast at about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. And Belfast was really quiet. It was Saturday morning, but it was really quiet. Just waking up, and we went and found somewhere to have breakfast. Lovely. It was lovely. And then we got out of Belfast by probably 9:30, so given it was a Saturday, probably before it started to get busy, and headed up the west coast. No, the east coast, sorry. So that was Northern Ireland, and we loved Northern Ireland, and the people were so friendly in Northern Ireland. And as someone that grew up with all the troubles on the news and all that kind of thing, to go to Northern Ireland and see how beautiful it is and how friendly it is and all that kind of thing was just lovely. So I really enjoyed that. We went to the Giant's Causeway, which was interesting, but I would actually say it was really busy with people, and I think that slightly ruined it. I think it would have felt a bit different if it had been quiet, but it was really busy. So that probably wasn't the highlight of our trip, but yeah, I mean, it was really beautiful, really beautiful. We really enjoyed it. So I bought some yarns. I bought some yarns from Kerry yarns. Now, we didn't go down as far as Kerry. We after visiting Northern Ireland, we went over to the west coast, went into Ireland, and then drove down the west coast, Donegal, and then down that way. And we didn't get down as far as Kerry. Kerry's quite far down, and I think we loved it so much going to Ireland that we hope that if my son is still out there, the plan we're thinking in a couple of years' time, maybe 2 years' time or something, that we might go back out and actually do the south part of Ireland. Although we sailed home from Dublin, we didn't see any more of Dublin than just driving through it to the port. So we'd obviously like to see Dublin, and there is a really good yarn shop in Dublin, but I didn't get to do it because we arrived there on a Sunday. Same with Belfast. We arrived so early into Belfast that it was going to be hours before there were any yarn shops open, so neither of those were we able to make the most of. But we did get to some other places, and Kerry yarns were selling. There is a village in Ireland, if you like. It's made up of old houses of how people used to live in Ireland, and in fact, quite funnily enough, there is a house there that they've taken from where they were building an airport, which is where my son works, and I think it would have been in the middle of the runway or something, and they took it down and rebuilt it on this museum site. And so around about with those houses, there was this shop selling the Kerry yarns. So that's where I got this, and I'll pull it out. I think it's down at the bottom. Excuse the rustling. So I got 2 of these. It's 100% pure merino wool. It's lovely and soft. This is a 200-gram skein. And the other skein I have already balled up into 2 balls, and I have started a swatch. I'm hoping to hit gauge for the pattern the Ostara cardigan by Anna Johanna, and this popped out. This is a new pattern, and this popped up. I'm not sure if I saw it. No, I think I saw it on Ravelry actually. I don't think it was Instagram. And it's embroidered on the back, and it is stunning. And I love embroidery, but it is quite slow. But I couldn't help but be drawn to it because it's something. It's so beautiful, and it almost looks like antlers on the back. Yeah, I just thought, would it be something really different? I mean, when you've knitted quite a lot, you do find yourself drawn. There's wanting to knit the things that you really love, really enjoy, and wanting to knit more of that kind of thing. And then there's looking for things that are different and, different as in interesting, challenging, etc. And I guess this is going to be both. So that's what I'm trying to hit gauge on. So the first, I've cheated. So the bottom half is one size needle, and then the neck. And I realised I wasn't hitting. I was a long way off hitting gauge. So then I've gone up to another size needle. So we'll see how we get to with that, and whether I can hit gauge with that. If not, the yarn will do very well for something else. And then I went to Studio Donegal in Donegal, just outside Donegal. It was in County Donegal. And that was a really interesting place. So if you're in that area, do go and have a look. You can just park up, walk in, and you can go and have a look at their woolen mill. And there's lots of stuff they've got that's ready-made, knitted or used woven. But they also had lots of lovely yarn. And this I have got, it's Darny, which is a fingering 4-ply. And it's 100% lamb's wool, and it's quite tweedy. It actually feels quite like Rowan's Valley tweed, which I know I've talked about really liking. It's not super soft. It's definitely not hard. It's definitely not itchy. I wouldn't say anything like that, but it's just maybe a little bit not quite as soft as the Rowan Valley tweed. But I'm going to be interested to see. I think it will still make a really nice cardigan, which is what I'm planning on doing. I've got 3 of these, and that's what I'm planning on knitting on it. And I'm hoping that when I block it, that the soaking will help it bloom out and soften a bit. So I have cast on, so I've done my test swatch for this. I've hit gauge. I've cast on for the Atria cardigan, which is an interesting little, what I call a little dress cardigan. And it's one of those where you knit a strip. So here we go. So I've cast on here. I've knit that strip there, and you've got some, so that's your neck edge. And you've got a little bit of ribbing here. And then you're going over just into a little bit of stocking stitch here. And you do that for a certain amount of rows, and then you stop and you put that on hold, and you go back to your stitches on your provisional cast on, and you knit the other way in exactly the same, so a mirror image of that. And that's where I've got to. I've just done that. So that top bit is the neck edge. So what's going to happen now is that I'm going to take the stitches on there and on there. I'm going to pick up the stitches along the bottom line. So you've got that running around the 3 sides, stitches running around the 3 sides. And then you knit out, if you like. So this is going around the back of my neck, and you're knitting out so that you're coming down the fronts, down the sleeves. Obviously you're doing your raglan increases, and there'll be increases at the front as well. I did something similar with this. I can't remember the name of the car. Goodness, I'm not doing well today. But there was a cardigan I did 2 years ago, a lovely yellow one, but that was a narrower strip, and it doesn't sit. I love it. I love the cardigan, but it just, if I was to say what I don't like about it, it doesn't sit quite so. It has an inclination to slip a bit off my shoulders. It's made out of that one is made out of a rather slippy yarn as well. So this has got a much wider strip here, and it looks to me like it would sit better. Plus, it being more tweedy, will probably mean it's got a bit of a better grip. So yeah, we'll see. I'm determined to play around with the cardigan patterns because I wear so many of these little cardigans that I can pop on over a dress. Right, I have popped off my Anker tee because with the window shut, of course, it really is starting to get quite warm. So yeah, so just to be more comfortable, I have popped that off. So the other thing that I bought at Studio Donegal was Donegal Aran Tweed, and this fabulous dark red. I love this colour. They had some really nice. I did struggle to choose to settle on what I was going to get, and it's difficult because you know that you're not going to easily be able to. You're not going to be able to get back there. So ordering any more was going to be difficult. So I know I needed to get enough. So I bought a jumper's quantity, and probably an extra couple of balls really, of the Donegal Aran Tweed in this lovely red. And I bought just a couple of these because I might do a yoke thing with some colour. Or I might use these for something else. I wanted to give myself the option. Now, obviously, it's not Aran weight jumper weather at the moment, so that is definitely not something I'm going to start knitting at the moment. But I wanted to share with you that I bought those because it's a lot of fun, I think. It's a lot of fun to pick up yarn from different places where you've been. Like when I was in Scotland last year, and probably when I go again in a few weeks, it's a lot of fun to have bought yarn in different places, and then when you're knitting it, it reminds you of where you've been, and it also is it's a bit of a exploration into different types of yarn and how they behave. Like I say, I wonder whether the Donegal ones will how they'll soften, you know, when they're blocked and what have you, and how they'll behave. So that will all be quite an interesting. I will say I did think that the yarn was quite reasonably priced there, and I was worried it would be really scratchy or uncomfortable or whatever. And whilst I would say, like I said, both the Tweed and the Aran perhaps a little bit firmer than perhaps the Rowan ones, for example, which of course I'm quite used to from when I worked in the Rowan store. But they're still, I think, be very wearable. But I'd be interested to see how they behave as well when I knit them and block them and so forth. Well, that's me got through all of that knitting. That felt like quite a lot, even though I'm sure I've probably only brushed over quite a lot of the details. But I think a lot of the finished projects I've talked to you about before. And obviously with things like the ones that I've picked up and started knitting, we'll get much more chance to be talking about those. But I wanted to sort of give that overview. And as I say, I'm also knitting all the baby bits and pieces as well. So there's definitely loads and loads of knitting going on, even though perhaps over the summer you might not see quite so much of me. So as I was telling you about, we had a lovely time in Ireland. After we'd left Donegal, we then went down the west coast. It was so beautiful. It really was. Donegal, County Mayo, you know, that you're going around these all these hills, and you've got all the lakes, the water everywhere. Very, very green, as I'm sure you would expect. But it's one thing saying it, it's another thing seeing it. And we went off. There is some islands that you can actually. There are lots of islands, and many of which you can visit by boat. And because we were limited on time, we chose not to do that. But what we did do was choose some islands that we could drive onto with the car. And you drove on, and then you went round the road, and it was just. Now, okay, it was early May and it was a weekday, but it was a bank holiday week, and it was really quiet when you think how busy it was when we looked at the Giant's Causeway. But it was, we were on these islands and it was really quiet, and there were only a few other people. We just saw the odd person, at times we were completely on our own in an area. And you were driving around and just stopping at these beautiful little spots and looking out over the sea. And then we ended up at this we found a lovely place to stop. And fortunately, we'd been clever enough, because it's so quiet, of course, there aren't actually many places to stop and eat. So we'd brought ourselves a little picnic, that we picked up in the petrol station near where we were staying. That turned out to be a good thing, because there weren't many places to eat. So we had our picnic on this lovely spot at the top of this island looking out over the Atlantic, and then we carried on down to this beautiful beach, one of the most beautiful beaches I think I've ever seen. And Ireland, the week we were there, it was a bit of a joke, because the weather was a bit of a joke, because we were sort of saying, well, this is just a ruse, isn't it? You make out your weather's always wet, but I bet it's always like this, It was just so sunny, not hot, not like it is here, but the sun was out most of the time. So it was really pleasant. I don't think we saw any rain when we were over there, which I think, from what my son tells me, is pretty unusual. So that really helped in, our exploring, and therefore that beach that we went to was quite popular. There were maybe 20 groups of people across the whole beach. It's hardly busy, but we didn't have the beach to ourselves, if you like, but it was lovely. It was really beautiful. We took Hugo down on there, and then we headed back, and we found a pub further down on the island for dinner on the way back. So that was a wonderful day. That was really lovely. I really enjoyed that. There were so many different things that we saw. The geology of it, the rocks. Obviously, you've got the Giant's Causeway, but even as you come down the west coast of Ireland, so County Clare, where my son lives, the geology of the rocks around there, it's really, really interesting. It's so if you've been thinking about going to Ireland, I would only say it's well worth it. So I think that's everything for now. As I say, I'm shortly going off to Scotland, so I look forward to sharing that with you. We're on a Woolen Walks tour that I'm doing with Ailey, the thoughtful knitter, who runs the tours, and we are going to Inverness in Scotland, and then up onto the Black Isle and going up the east coast of Northeast Highlands. So that's going to be really interesting. So we're looking, obviously, Woolen Walks, we're going to be looking at yarn places, and we're going to be walking and enjoying the beautiful scenery, and spending plenty of time sitting, chatting over dinner with our knitting and what have you. Getting to make, there's going to be some of the ladies that were on the last trip, so that would be lovely to catch up with them again. And then there's going to be some new people as well. So that's going to be wonderful. I'm really looking forward to doing that, and I'll share that with you next time. Hugo, as I say, despite that little worry about his back leg, seems to be doing absolutely fine. So fingers crossed when we take him up for a checkup in the vets that they're happy not to go any further with that, and that whatever the problem was, it clears up. I'm going to put a few more shots of Ireland on the closing if you're interested in watching that. But other than that, until then, that just leaves me to say thank you so much for watching and for sticking with me through all my yabbering on today. That's what happens when you haven't filmed for a while. I'll be back with you sometime again over the summer to update you with what else is going on. Until then, take care, enjoy your knitting, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.